Nuria,
Oh,
as you lived
yeah.
in the UAE, do Arabs know what Islam actually says? Because if they read the Quran, they could actually understand it. Now, this is a common question. Just to give a bit of a context, why the Berb is asking that question is because we say that okay, I think what is 60% of Islam is in. Oh no, I think 70% of Islam is outside of Arab speakers, Turks, Pakistan, Bangladesh, India,
Mm.
Indonesia, Malaysia, where Arabic is not native to us. So fair enough, we're just reading it. We don't know what it says, but we're just reading it. We're praying. We don't know what we're saying. But then what about the Arabs?
Yeah, sorry
They
to Abu Lahab,
understand
who I
it.
cussed out so many times. I'm sorry, mate. I did not know what I was saying.
Yeah. So yeah. So exactly. We actually didn't know that we were cussing Abu Lahab. Who? What am I actually saying? But anyway.
Didn't mean
So
to hurt you or your wife.
what do if Arabs get it? Why don't they leave Islam? So they can't say that. Well, we didn't know what was in it because Pakistani Muslims don't know what's in the Quran and the Hadith books.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I also think the problem is in a lot of modern Arabic countries, what is considered the Quranic Arabic is like literally considered Arabic, classical Arabic in the literature. So what they speak now is modern standard Arabic, and then they have all of the like linguistic variations depending on which country. So the Egyptian dialect is very different from the Levantine dialect, which is very different from the Gulf dialect, which is mostly like in the UAE, Bahrain, Kuwait, those kind of areas. So there's a distinct different way they have speaking. But yeah, the Quran, even when you're studying Arabic in school, because you are an Arab and you have to, the literature that they look into is they like normal like Arabs my age would find it really, really difficult. And they're like, we don't use like a lot of these words in the modern context in the way they speak. So, there's certain things which you obviously you can pick up. But again, the Quran still has that mystical element to it where this is written in like older classical Arabic, and we don't need to know it verbatim, word for word. We just need to know enough to pray. And we like Islam is so embedded culturally into them. So you grow up, you think wearing an abaya is completely normal, putting a shayla on, like just covering your head a bit, it's all normal. But that stems from like cultural norms, as opposed to they know that Surah Nisa says this in the Quran and therefore they have to do it. So yeah, I don't think they even know, to be honest, the way that like Pakistani Muslims or non-native Arab speakers know it as well. They have a much better chance of like being able to understand it if they put their head, like if they really wanted to focus, because you can just like you can take a couple of classes to learn about classical Arabic, and then pretty much your understanding of the Quran would be a lot more thorough. But as I said, they're not really concerned. In the UAE as well, they're living such a good life, most of them. Emiratis are anyway, because the government pays, like subsidizes their life like heavily. And you're guaranteed like a government job, chilled working hours. You don't need to worry about like a pension or anything. So that they don't really have much time to dedicate to pursuing Islam or understanding the nitty-gritty of it. Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, but also the other thing is, I think some of these things that they are actually aware of, and I think a lot of muftis have actually spoken about it. For example, the issue of Quran, and Nuria, you being I don't know, I can never relate with you. I can't say whether you're a Pakistani or not, because you actually didn't never lived in Pakistan. But amongst Pakistani Muslims, and even in India and Bangladesh and Sri Lanka, well, non-native Urdu Arabic speakers, we've been told, not even the letters, Zair Zabar, how would you say, the dots, not even a single dot is out of place.
Yeah. I think that, yeah.
Yeah, so they drum that in us just to emphasize on the point that this means that it is the literal word of God, and God has taken the responsibility of protecting it. Whereas when you take the same issue to the Arabic speakers, they don't see it like that. When you tell them, hey, there's so many different versions of Islam or the Quran, they actually don't react to it. So because they've always known it. Their parents never told them, hey, look, not a single dot is out of place, because they know that those dots and the zairs and zabars, they were added later on. So they know that. They know the Hafs and Warsh and all these different versions of Islam. They've known about it. Saudi Arabian government has an actual website that actually shows all the different versions of Islam, or versions of the Quran, and you can download it. But these Lande ke Musalman. You know, how should
Haris
these
Sultan.
these made in China, Pakistan Muslims, you know, like so these Muslims were just like, they don't know anything. They're just like, okay, Daddy, Papa, what should I be? Okay, you should be a Muslim. Okay, all right. So those Muslims, they don't know anything about it. So they go, okay, all right. That's why they actually don't know. And now when we tell them that, hey, look, this is what Islam says. If you told an Saudi Arabian or Omani or Qatari that, oh, you know what, the child marriage 9-year-old, they're like, yeah, well, we've known this. They've always known this. But Muslims, or about sex slaves. But Pakistanis, they've been told, oh no, Islam is a religion of honor. We respect women. No sex. Look below. You know, don't look at a woman. And then and this is what we grew up with. And then I'm like, what? You tell me don't look at a woman, but your freaking prophet was banging every opportunity he got. So that's that is also a reason why they are already desensitized. Native Arabic speakers are already desensitized. But let's take Arabic translator meme on that. Hey,
Hello.
Arabic Thai, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? I hope everything's going well. Just a quick update on the few points that I managed to hear. So, as Arabs, we don't actually know everything. We are given a different version of Islam from school that skips all these little bits to do with Aisha's age. I did not know Aisha's age until the age of 29. I just knew she was a child. I just did not know her actual age. I wasn't aware of the hadith, for instance, about her age. We kind of joke, locker room style talk as to Muhammad's womanizing lifestyle. And sometimes, one time I saw it in a light-hearted chat on religious TV, but never in detail. So for instance, those details about the number of marriages, the number actually itself shocked me. I did not realize that the number goes up to 9. We just knew had multiple wives. So and the Quran, yes, we understand.
But did you know? But did you know very quickly? But did you know about Maria Kiptia's incident when he told Hafsa to go away and then he just started having sex with the housemaid?
No.
You didn't know that. Did you know about Zainab, the Zaid's wife? Did you know that?
Not directly. We knew all along that.
Yeah, I think we knew about it too.
Yeah, adoption was cancelled.
But you knew the common argument that, oh, he did it to abolish the institute of adoption. I mean, that's right.
But see, this is all half truth that they don't tell you. So for instance, when you realize he had adopted Zayd for 15 years and he had another son called Salim, suddenly you can ask, so how did Allah allow it for 15 years? And only when Muhammad had interest in Zainab, then that's when the verse came down. So you know what I mean? So these are the things, you get half the bit. So you know it was cancelled. You get to know that later on he married Zainab, but you don't. The connection between those two is not given to you until you research it. So to answer your question, we actually do not know everything in the Quran. If we did, you wouldn't see so many Arab ex-Muslims and atheists.
No, but here's one question though. But when you, because we read the Quran when we're kids, we're told that we need to read it. No, but we obviously don't know the Arabic. But I'm just assuming that you would have been made to read the Quran as well. But did you not pick up anything then?
No. I mean, the story of Abu Lahab was a shock for me when I was read it at school. I just didn't understand.
God is praying to God.
No, specifically going after his wife was something that troubled me. Like, it's a very Arab thing that when you're angry with someone, F your mother, your wife. Yeah, it goes directly for your wife and your mother. Yeah, so I was like, why is Allah going after the wife? The wife didn't do anything. And especially the bit, she used to throw sticks in his way. Which he could walk around it, like, just imagine sticks in the middle of the road. Just walk around it.
Such a crybaby, isn't he?
No, here's my analysis after looking into it. Basically, the other word for whore in the Arab old way is to get married to a slave. Like, you're cheap. You couldn't get a woman. You got married to a slave. So when you look at her story carefully, Hablun min Masad, this is a necklace made of thorns. That's a slave necklace. Carrying sticks, that's a slave reference. So although the tafsir doesn't mention that, because later on many slaves converted to Islam, my analysis is that the verse is insulting Abu Lahab's wife as being a cheap slave, which would have been a substandard in Arabic culture.
Yeah, it's like you wouldn't pay any attention to someone. Like if I have a fight with you, then I just start cursing your wife, or like, you know, the F your mum or whatever. It shows this is a very human behavior. Like, I mean,
Absolutely.
and even amongst humans, it's a behavior of lowly humans. An academic would not talk like that.
Yes.
And here, the creator of the universe talking about it. And also, what about the word Zanim that was used for the father of Khalid bin Walid, that he was a Zanim, like he was a bastard.
Yes.
That's another one. Like the creator of the universe is saying that about a guy he doesn't like, that he's a bastard.
Yeah. And written 15 billion years ago at the start of the universe on a solid clay tablet.
Yeah.
Before the Big Bang.
Before mankind ever, God knew, let me cuss out Abu Lahab's wife.
Let's get started. Let's get started with Abu Lahab and his wife.
The first diss track ever from the Quran.
It's so pathetic. So you're saying... Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I mean, these little bits did flag things, but there's a lot of brainwashing happening in the schools. So, for instance, the Milk al-Yamin, Ma Malakat Imanukum, which is the right-hand possessed sex slave or bounty. We were told these are sabaya. And sabaya is a reference to these harems of the emir who sit and dance all day and clean the house and stuff. We were not given the full facts about these were women taken from their family and their family being killed and used as slaves and sold from one man to another and, you know, sold as meat, basically.
I want to ask you a question here. This is a very good point, because I remember vaguely that too, because some of these problematic part, like if a question comes to your mind, they would give you an answer just a little bit. I know, and that wouldn't require it would be incumbent upon your critical faculties to go one step further and say, okay, but where did these girls come from? Like, were they growing out of the ground or something? Where did they come from? Well, like, who would? But then obviously then you would be putting your mum or your teacher further. But the reason why we don't ask those questions for some reason is because that shows that we're kids. But you, or anyone for that matter, is like, why don't we not ask those questions? Why do we actually stop and we settle? This is what I say. Islam actually is a very mediocre, like out of religions as well. It's a very mediocre religion. It makes you settle for...
Yeah, because it says that, you know, asking questions is not encouraged. Like Muslims will say, oh, the Quran says seek knowledge, but no, actually asking questions is not encouraged, because obviously, like the Quran itself says, the people that like ask questions end up leaving is normally like what happens. But like I completely agree with what you're saying in terms of like the, you know, almost like the propaganda element of Islam, even in the Middle East. Like the Islam that I would like have to do in my school curriculum, they start from the basic. Like imagine, first of all, no one takes the Islam class that seriously, because it's not like you don't pass in it in the way you get GCSEs or A levels or whatever, right? So it's just a class you have to do because it's like obligated by the Islamic curriculum school system. Exactly. So the questions we'd already get would be like, in the period of Jahiliyyah, ignorance, like, you know, young babies were buried alive. That's given to you as a statement of fact. Like that, you're just like, yes, the Prophet like abolished it, like that practice, and you're already answering in a brainwashed manner. And like the questions were like, when was Muhammad's hijrah? What did the Jews do? What did Muhammad do when he encountered the Jews? Everything is already set from that narrative. You're completely right. Like,
and there's no question. You're not allowed to ask questions. I do remember a kid in my class who was always argumentative, and he got in too much trouble with the religion teacher. Telling him to shut up and don't talk, and you know, and reporting him to the head of school that the student is troubled, asking too many questions. So you are not encouraged to ask questions, to be critical. But I mean, I wanted also to mention something about the issue of cancel culture that we're having. So I had scheduled a chat with the ex-Muslims of Norway, and it was planned almost 10 days in advance, advertised heavily to talk about what I did here last week, but in more detail about how Facebook, which I always call Fatwa Book, keeps harassing ex-Muslims. And I showed you a bit slides there, and we extended it. So you wouldn't believe this, that when we went live, Facebook blocked them and would not let them live stream. They've done it for 5 years. Every other week, they live stream a chat with ex-Muslim. That was the first time they could not. They tried to link from StreamYard. It wouldn't work. They tried to even post the YouTube link directly. It wouldn't show. I have the link. I'll share it in the chat. You can see them, the organizers confused and lost, like this has never ever happened. And yet I wasn't surprised. I kept saying it doesn't surprise me. They don't want anyone to share what they've been doing to ex-Muslims by harassing them online. So I thought to share with you this incident there with Fatwa Book. That's really I wanted to come in on this topic of Arab, but that's really it. I hope you enjoyed some of the memes this week. Did you have a chance?
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much for coming. And
thank you.
It's always a pleasure to have you, Professor.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that information and shedding light on the Arabic world.
If you like these videos and want to support me in my activism, then you can support me on Patreon or PayPal. Stay free, everyone.